What's up, everybody? D-Man back. Welcome to a brand new video, and today we're going to be doing my spoiler-free review for Infinity War. This is going to be non-scripted. It's just me sitting down, talking, giving my thoughts on Infinity War in the most non-spoiler way possible. And the problem with that is that Infinity War is a very spoiler-heavy movie. In fact, I'd say what you've seen in the trailers, although it may be more of the cool set pieces, more of the cool action scenes from the movie, you may have seen, some of the coolest blows dealt to different characters. You know nothing about the movie, and that's really the thing about Infinity War. It defies expectations to the point where making a spoiler-free review for the movie is almost impossible, because there's so little you can say that it's almost like you might as well just start the review and say, go see the movie, and then end the review. But I'm not going to do that, obviously. I'm going to try and give some thoughts as someone who's grown up with the MCU, for the past 10 years, for literally more than half of my life, the MCU has been a prominent thing in my world. It is just such an incredible experience to get to see all of this culminate in one massive movie. And I mean, I changed the background, boys. That has not happened. That doesn't happen. I may switch some stuff up a little bit over here, but this does not happen, But I had to get my Infinity War poster up. Now everyone's going to tell you how great Thanos is. The problem is, I've never really had too many issues with MCU villains. I typically enjoy seeing them, but I don't really care about them one way or another. That's how a lot of people feel, right? But I didn't feel too different about Thanos. I enjoyed seeing him on screen. He is the driving factor behind Infinity War, but it wasn't like where I'm rooting for him. I've seen some reviews where people have said, no, yeah, I watched the movie and you really sympathize with Thanos, you start to root for him. Not at all. Absolutely not. The whole movie, I was hoping he failed. And if you've seen my ending predictions that I just did, you know that I didn't think he was going to fail. So the whole movie, I was basically watching it going, I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. And I'm not going to talk about one way or another if I was right or wrong. I'm just going to say I never found myself being delusional to the point where I was like, no, I really want Thanos to kill every single character that I like. That never happened. So, I don't know. Maybe Thanos just didn't resonate with me like he did with some people, but I didn't see it. And also, by the way, if don't talk about spoilers down in the comments. Let's keep that for a spoiler review, all right? I will be doing spoiler discussions for the movie. Maybe I won't post my spoiler review right away, but I'll do spoiler discussions for the movie. There's so much to talk about in this movie that I can't talk about that I guess I could say in a spoiler-free review. The characters you want to see, they don't necessarily get their time to shine. Some of them don't even show up in the movie at all. Some people are like, oh, I know who he's talking about. You probably don't, because it's a very broad statement. There's so many characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that, yeah, there's a lot of them we don't get to see. The tone for the movie isn't consistent. If you've seen the movie, you know that there is no tone for Avengers Infinity War. If you're gonna just put one overall tone, the movie as a whole, it's not a very happy movie. We knew that. It's a high-stakes movie. Of course, characters are gonna die, and so you're not gonna always be laughing or whatever, but at the same time, the tone shifts depending on whose storyline you're following. Are you following the Guardians of the Galaxy storyline? Or are you following Doctor Strange's storyline? Or are you following Thanos' storyline? Depending on who you're with, the tone's different. Overall, though, all of them had some elements of comedy mixed in, minus Thanos, I'd say. But for the most part, every storyline has some elements of comedy, and I didn't ever think it didn't work. I was watching the movie and thinking, I usually hate Marvel's forced comedy. I'm like, it just ruins the movie. No, it doesn't ruin the movie, but it holds it back. And during this movie, I was wondering, would I like this movie more if we didn't have any comedic elements? And I don't know how to answer that question, because if we didn't have any comedic elements, this would be a pretty depressing movie. But because we do have those comedic elements, you don't always feel the weight of what's happening. And that's the other problem. There's some moments that are supposed to be very emotionally driven that you don't feel the weight of it because you don't have enough time to feel the weight of it. You don't have enough time to spend on anything, really, because you have 17 plus movies, something like that, coming together in one. You have so many characters, dozens and dozens of characters, that you're not going to get to spend as much time with all of them as you want. And sometimes when some things happen to some of them, you're not going to feel it as much as you would have in, say, a solo film or something like that. That being said, though, this movie I think is absolutely awesome. And Alan Silvestri, he is killing it lately with these soundtracks. He of course was the guy behind Ready Player One, and he annihilated that movie, especially the big ending battle with that other character who, just for the sake of it, I'm not going to spoil, but us Godzilla fans, we'd be happy about that theme coming back. And then in this movie, of course, he composed this one, and he did the first Avengers, if I'm not mistaken, which I don't think I am. He's killing it lately. I mean, this movie's soundtrack is fantastic, and to go along with the soundtrack, there's fantastic visuals. The special effects, they're not always perfect. Sometimes I look at them and I'm like, I'm looking at a CG character, but it's a pretty intriguing CG character, so I like to look at it. It's almost like if you were to take a picture and then enhance it for a YouTube thumbnail. I see YouTubers do this all the time. They enhance HD images from the trailers, or a lot of the time they'll take a non-HD image, they'll enhance it, and then they'll put like some filter over it, and that'll be their thumbnail. And that's almost what it looks like some of the time when you see these CG characters. You're like, you don't look real. You don't look like you fit in this environment, but you're still very visually appealing, and I like looking at it. And that's really the thing. This movie was very not only visually appealing, but emotionally appealing, and I liked not only looking at it, but being a part of it. It draws you in. You feel most of the impact of what it wants you to feel. Maybe sometimes, like I said, you're not going to feel it because you just don't have time to. But when it lets some stuff sink in, you feel it. And one of the things that I think is most effective about this movie is the use of silence. Whenever there's no music playing and there's just silence, you feel what it wants you to feel. And this movie, it's such a roller coaster. I love it. I love the way that it can make you go from being like laughing and being like, haha, this is such a great time, haha. That's terrible acting, but you get the point. And then 5 seconds later, you're like about to cry because you can't believe what you just saw. And it's one of those, and the use of silence really amplifies those intense moments. And I don't know if it was just for me, but this was the most reactive audience I have ever been in a movie theater. Ever. And it really amplified the viewing experience. The most cheering, the most laughing, the mostly cheering that I have ever dealt with in a movie, and it was so cool. This is such a good fanfare for Marvel fans, and some people will complain and say, oh, but if you're not a hardcore MCU fan, you're not going to get it. Well, that's your fault. Honestly, it's at that point, it's like that's individual preference. The fans that it was made for, we love it. I feel like general consensus, this is an awesome movie, and a lot of people really agree on that. But I found myself cheering along with it and laughing with it, and it was really cool. I felt like, and some people are going to be like, oh, what a wimp, but I've never teared up as much as I had in this movie. And no, it's not like I was always crying like, oh, I'm so sad, I can't believe that. A lot of the time it was just, I was so excited to be seeing what I was seeing that I had like tears in my eyes, where it's like, I can't believe what I'm watching. There are times, there's especially one point near the end of the movie, and I'm going to keep it super vague here, where one character begs another character for something, and it hit me so much harder than I thought it was going to, especially because there's no way I could have predicted it going in. There's a lot of things in this movie that I was able to predict, that a lot of us were able to predict, but then there's some things in here that there's literally not a way you can see them coming. Those are the things that stick. This movie is not very formulaic. In fact, I'd say this is one of the most radically different Marvel movies ever, aside from like Black Panther, which I think is incredibly different from most Marvel movies. Well, at the same time, it does feel like a remake of a lot of the movies that I've seen before from the MCU, which is where a lot of people love it. It's familiar, but it's also very different style-wise. I'm not going to get into Black Panther, but this movie I think is very different in the fact that there really isn't any build-up. There's no setup. It's all resolution, and all it's basically a 3 hour long climax. So you've watched the movies that come before it, or that's the assumption anyways. You've basically built up to this point. Now they're going to pay it off, they're going to finish it off, and that just leaves us with Avengers 4 to be the resolution. So that's going to be crazy. I don't know how they're going to resolve a lot of this stuff. I have theories and we'll have to talk about them in later videos, but man, it's crazy. So yeah, this movie was able to make me laugh, able to make me tear up, and never cried, but tear up. It really took me on a roller coaster. What a ride, as they say. It was a great movie. Fantastic. I would say, though, yeah, definitely go back, check out the old Marvel movies, because there's characters that'll show up in here and you're going to be like, who is this? I don't know who this is. And it's like, oh, well, you should go back and watch 6 movies ago, and then you'll see that they show up at this part, you know, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of intricate weaving of old storylines into this movie. Very, very excited I am for Avengers 4, so I can't wait. I don't know, that's my spoiler-free review for Infinity War. It's a fantastic movie. Great special effects, great music, the human story. You know, I do the human story, kaiju story for my normal reviews, but there is no kaiju story in this one, so the human story is there's not too much actually going on with your characters. I know some of them are aliens, so you can't really say human story. Your character story, you don't get too much character story outside of Thanos, which is all right. You know, we've seen 10 years worth of these characters. We don't always, you know, need to have full character arcs for each character in every movie. And especially when this movie really isn't an Avengers movie, it's more of Thanos' movie with the Avengers as a side. So I'm fine with that. I'm fine with exactly how they presented it, and you know, it is what it is. I liked it. So human story's good, and then the superhero, like the action sequences, the crazy stuff going down, the superhero stuff, it is awesome. There's my favorite scene in a superhero movie ever is still the airport battle from Civil War, because that is just a spectacle to behold right there. But this movie definitely gives that movie a run for its money in terms of what you're watching. The problem is you never get a chance to fully invest in every action sequence, because there is a lot of intercutting between action sequences, so it gets a little bit jumbled up there, and really that's ultimately where the movie falls flat, I guess, where it falls a little bit short. There's so much to juggle here that it doesn't always succeed how it wants to, which is, you know, you can't blame them. It's too ambitious. It's just too much to be done. And we didn't want to sit through a 6-hour movie, so they had to do what they had to do, and I'm fine with that. And the cool thing about Avengers Infinity War is it's a 3-hour movie. It's like 2 hours 50 something minutes, but it doesn't feel like a 3-hour movie. You know, you never sit there, you're never checking your watch like, oh, when is this gonna get over? It's just such a long, boring movie. There's so much happening all the time and you're so wrapped up in all these different storylines that you really never get time to be bored. And so I will say that this movie definitely goes by much quicker than any other 3-hour movie I've ever seen, including Peter Jackson's King Kong from 2005, which is one of my favorite movies of all time, which I think is a pretty big statement for me to make. You know, that's me saying that I think this movie's better paced than one of my favorite movies ever, and they're basically the same length. So, there you go. And I'm talking about the extended cut of Kong. I don't know. I definitely recommend seeing Infinity War. Go check it out. Great movie. Can't wait to do some spoiler discussions for it. But for now, I'm, you know, emotionally exhausted from that movie. And I'm also physically exhausted from a super long day. So, I'm going to go to bed. See you guys next time. Hope you enjoyed. D-Man, out.